hot one tonight, folks. Welcome to the live Just Our Three Gents AEW opinionated podcast thing we're doing. I don't know what this is actually anymore. It's kind of just us three sitting around and riffing for a while.
Basically.
Fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you see your face? Do you have a face on your end?
I have a face, yes.
You have no
We
face
don't have
on
a
our
face.
end.
Uh-oh.
I can see your Sasquatch character, but not you.
Your screen
Interesting.
is
How about here?
black on our end.
I just turned my thing off there.
Right?
This is the wonders of technology tonight, folks. We are having so much fun here. I may just have to be my Sasquatch character is really what it's going to have to be. If that's a problem, it's all right. I might come back at any time. Who knows? As long as I'm here, as long as you can hear me.
Uh-oh.
Oh, you're almost there.
Oh, no. The internet
Oh, you
is
had a
not
face
working.
and everything. You were here.
Oh, no. Okay, so here's what we gonna do. So I'm gonna take over for a little bit while JVL gets this sorted out.
We were doing great, and then the stream started, and then the internet decided, nope, fail. That's okay.
But you know what? We're gonna keep this,
We'll get him
going.
back. We'll get him back.
We'll get him back eventually, hopefully. So, hold up. I think he's there. Okay, talk to
You're
me.
here.
Yeah, I turned off my NordVPN.
Oh,
Sponsor.
fun.
Oh no.
Yeah, this is how this is going to run.
Oh boy, continue.
Okay. Do you need to go someplace else instead of the van you live in out in
I
Wisconsin?
am the van I live in. Thank you very much. Anyway, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be semi-professional for this. We're 5 minutes in, and already, I'm off Adolfo's timetable here. I can't make El Buntador happy. I mean, it's just what it is. We're here for the Just Three Gents podcast. This is the three of us that usually hear the Three Gents. We are going to talk about AEW Dynamite from the 10th of July, and we're going to go over our opinions of of all the matches, of all the different promos, of stuff that went on, and just pay the price for watching AEW on some sort of pirated, torrented site. Basically, is what it is. So, we have Mikey, we have the professor, we have myself, JVL, here to be able to go through this for you. At the top of this, thank you for joining us live. If you've just joined us here, if the algorithm brought you here, thank you very much as well for joining us there. Subscribe to the channel you're on, whether that's Instagram Live, that could be YouTube Live, that could be Twitch Live, who knows. You can also follow us on all the social media at BC WrestlePod, and you can also buy some merch, support me getting rid of all the viruses on my computer, maybe do other stuff like that. Who knows how it's going to work at this point. Basically, I have a plague going on here, and hopefully I don't spread it to the other two hosts as we're here. Or to you, which would be wonderful. Gentlemen, we were up in Calgary, Alberta, Canada for this AEW Dynamite, which is notoriously an amazing wrestling town for the most part. We know that Edmonton had some problems. We know that when they went to BC, there were some bad actors in the crowd. Calgary came through.
Oh yeah.
Really brought it this week. Do you both feel this was a good setting to kind of get things right toward maybe where they need to be going?
Yes. I mean, it's fitting because of the Owen Hart Cup for sure. The nods to Calgary and history of professional wrestling through there are always fantastic. There is the unfortunate fact that Jericho still thinks so highly of Calgary. But this is the first time that Calgary has sort of talked back to Jericho. We'll talk about that when we get there. So that was kind of like, oh, you're no longer welcome. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Calgary was fantastic. It was great seeing all those folks there. And not to dwell on this because we got a lot of stuff to talk about. It's in the theater. We have those nights where it's like, oh, it's a smart audience, where it's like, oh, they're laughing at the smart jokes, or they get the theater things, or there's jokes within jokes that they're laughing at, or there's someone out there. It felt like that, right? They were quiet when they needed to be. They were reacting to certain things. They were reacting to what folks were wearing when they came down. They were reacting to references to Sharpshooter and other stuff like that. I think the announce table is doing better without Taz, with Taz being banned.
Go figure. It's somehow
Weird
having those three together and not having Taz as a thing.
So funny. And them kind of leaning on Calgary nods was kind of funny. Like you don't have to lean on it. It's already there. Everything's fine.
And Mikey, I know we have a lot to talk about as well. I wanted to ask you specifically because you have watched now two major shows, both from Toronto and Calgary. Tell me why the Calgary fans were better than the Toronto fans for all the WWE stuff.
Yeah, and tell the Toronto fans where you live so they can come check on you.
Nah, we ain't trying to have the whole entirety of the 6 coming after me. So, I disagree.
Ooh,
Oh.
okay.
I think Calgary was I'll say this. I think Calgary is the best of the, Canada cities that we've been in for AEW over the last couple months or so. I think they did a better job than the other places, but they were still fairly muted when it came to certain things too. I was like, okay, cool. Again, they were better, and I'm gonna get some hate, but Toronto kind of killed it this past weekend. Maybe not for Money in the Bank, but for NXT Heatwave, that crowd was the loudest thing that I heard all week, which was
That's
crazy.
what I'm not comparing it to. I'm comparing it to the pay-per-view, which was decently loud, but
Sure.
it seemed also like they were sitting on their hands a little bit there too. It seems like people are either tired out from it or they're just too metropolitan to enjoy it. But we have to get to the Dynamite we've got going on now, because I'm going to smash the two first things together. We had a video promo of MJF about why he's turning heel, what's going on, a full explanation like we've gotten for the last couple things where he's fully embracing his heel status. And then we have Will Ospreay coming out live to countermand that and tell him he's a no-talent hack compared to Will Ospreay, full on with that as well. Did you all enjoy the kind of dichotomy of having your heel have to pre-tape everything and your babyface react to it like as it almost off the cuff and give it back to him that way?
I very rarely does the pre-tape heel thing work, and AEW loves it, right? They do it all the time. Like, I'm going to say these things in the ring and then wait for my cue to and turn to the prompter and see the big screen and go, oh my gosh. And sadly, Will was a little disjointed when this happened. Something is up with the sound on all of the promotions. Like, did they play the music just to juke him or hit the wrong button? It came off as a mistake to me, which was unfortunate. MJF nails this promo. I think it's great. I don't hate it. It would have been better in the ring. Come out there onto the ramp, drink your wine, spit at the Calgary fans, and be evil super genius MJF or whatever you wanted to be right now. I think that would have done a little better. I get it. They want days off. They want weeks off. They don't want to travel. So I understand that. It just lost a little emphasis on the wrong syllable. That's just me.
Mikey, do you feel like MJF being on video, though, might have been an instead of just a break that he might have needed, it's also a way to play up the fact that he really doesn't care about the crowd anymore to the point where he won't come to Calgary to actually do this?
I think that definitely is a thing since MJF has decided to go back to being a full heel. Honestly, it works better for MJF, and now that we're back to having heel MJF, now that we've kind of had a break from heel MJF for the last couple of months, I'm ecstatic. I think next week's match is going to be fantastic between him and Will. I have to say, this promo from Will wasn't necessarily my favorite. I think there were a couple of bits that I did like, but he kind of slipped over himself a little bit. And you could tell that he was thinking, all right, let me make sure I say this. Let me make sure I say that.
Yeah.
Of course, I give him a little bit of grace because he's Team Stimmy. Love him to death for that. That representation is important.
Which he went after MJF for as well, which is
that was probably my favorite line of the whole entire thing. Is like, you have ADD, I have ADHD, but that's not an excuse for you to be a prick, bruv.
And they both, and this is going to be controversial. It's on the autism spectrum. And the joke always goes, but it's actually true. ADHD and ADD were supposed to be on the autism spectrum, but they got their paperwork in a day late for the DSM-5 to go out.
Oh man, that's
for
all the neurodivergent people. Ow.
We're going to move on from that, though. We're going to jump next to our first video package setting up the Owen Hart final for the men, including talking about the fact that Jeff Jarrett's going to be the enforcer for this. I'm enjoying that they're using him because of his connection to Owen, but was he needed in this entire match between Hangman and Bryan Danielson?
I mean, long-term storytelling for this? Sure, because of what happens, and we'll talk about that in a second. I think this was for the fans. This is for the Calgary people, because Jeff Jarrett came through here. He was doing stuff in one or two other promotions. It escapes me. I looked it up not too long ago, actually. So, Jeff Jarrett's kind of the homer because they all know he was so close to Owen and did something ridiculous like 300 and something days of touring with him or whatever. I can't remember. I'm paraphrasing now. It's kind of hard when your enforcer's a dude in his early 60s. Still looks great. And as we saw last week, can still do a pretty good match.
Allegedly, steroids do really well for you at that age. So it's
I mean, I'm not gonna judge too much, I guess.
Mikey, did you miss an El Kabong in this match, or was it not needed?
No, in hindsight, I mean, see, this is the tough thing. Because of the ref bump, we needed somebody to come out for everything to happen.
Right.
And it does tell, and I'm making a bold prediction right here. I think Jeff Jarrett ends up on Team AEW for Blood and Guts in some capacity because him and Hangman have beef. Then everything that happens after this match, we're still missing a couple folks from Team AEW. So,
it's true. It's true. We'll get to when it happens there because we have a little bit on that as a promo later on.
Right.
So yeah, with Jeff Jarrett being here, I guess it was needed because there was a ref, but he didn't add over to anything. Now the match itself, though, two picture breaks, like a 20-minute match.
Yeah, it was. But before that even happened, both of you saw this, and as storytellers in your own right, you probably picked up on this whole thing, showing that Adam Page does not think he's a heel. Because Jeff Jarrett is sitting there waiting for him to come out of the heel tunnel, and he walks out of the babyface tunnel, still thinking he's over with the crowd. He's that thing. Is this a cool way to show this finally? Because you have this dichotomy in AEW that shows you where the heels and the babyfaces actually come from now, or
I hope they go farther with it. I think this is the start of more that they can do with angry sociopath Adam Page. I think there's something about what's true and what's not true with him and in this character, right? Sort of like, hey, everyone loves me, but I'm kind of changed forever. This sort of, I've been to war and now I'm different sort of vibe that he has now. I don't think he needs to oversell the crazy eyes. He likes doing the crazy eyes thing now a lot. The camera's close. I'm not having my crazy eyes on.
It's a dead eye. That's what it is.
Yeah. So angry face Adam Page, you can pull that back a little, I think. But story-wise, I think it's interesting, and I think we could go a lot of places with this, especially if he keeps losing. I think it's funny if it's angry face Adam Page and he just keeps losing match after match. Maybe that's just me.
Do we need to book him into WWE, like the same way they would do him in the 90s or the 80s at this point, just book him into oblivion because he's supposed to win something down the line? Or is it, Mikey, I just... Do you feel that Adam Page is served by doing this, or that he's just... Is this focus on Swerve and his need to get to Swerve too much anymore, or is it good now, still kind of bubbling below?
I think, and again, coupling with the little vignette that we got on Collision that, preempted his return anyways, with, all the stuff being moved out of his house, they playing the flashbacks when Swerve did the home invasion and almost suffocated a child with a very large t-shirt, which was nuts. I think that this version of Hangman is going to be fun if they go in the direction, because he's being so tunnel vision that he wants to get that title back. He wants to get even with Swerve. And, he thinks it's the trope in wrestling and in writing where you think you're doing the right things, but you're going about it the wrong way. So himself is delusional. Hangman is delusional enough to think that he's still the good guy. But it's that trope where you go into it saying that, you live long enough and you eventually become the bad guy. And essentially Hangman's becoming the bad guy of his own story because he's so hyper fixated on, getting back that title and beating Swerve. And finally, because Swerve has had his number pretty much at all the way, towards the tail end of last year and the first half of this year too.
So to paraphrase Mikey, he's in his Darth Vader arc right now is basically where he is.
Yep, and I have a prediction when we get to his talk with the Elite of what's going to happen next.
Oh, perfect.
I mean, I think he's in the Anakin stage, right? He's in the I hate you, like crawling out of the lava stage, right? He's not quite.
He's already gone by then. Remember, he was called Darth Vader at that. We can get into that whole thing and how the prequels worked and where it like started to happen. And what it was
Wow, no, you're right. You're not wrong.
At that point, so we're gonna leave it be because I want to get to the match itself. These two technically we knew this was going to be a slobber knocker, basically.
Slobber knocker.
Do we see Danielson needing to push his matches farther and farther as he gets farther into his retirement tour here or his wind down, including the fact of stealing his BCC counterpart's gimmick of bleeding every match he's in? Is this something he needs to do, or should he be a little more, creative with his matches?
I think he's always going to find a way to be creative. I think he's trying to. I think he's trying to do new and different things. That's how it comes off to me, anyway. It doesn't come off gimmicky like every match I'm going to bleed. If he bladed this match, he cut really deep.
Oh, he went full on, yeah,
in an awkward place because it kind of got over his eye in one spot. We'll talk about blood later because I have a blood conspiracy about something else that we'll talk about a little later on.
Gotta love a blood conspiracy,
dude. He took some shots here. Adam Page playing this I am now a serial killer angry face Adam Page. I'm not saying unsafe, but is very different than the Adam Page that we normally see. Dropped him on his head once or twice. That one rolled over, boom, Danielson right on the crown of his head, but kept going like it was nothing. There was one other adding the tombstones. These tombstones, the first two looked great. There was another one, I think he went for 3, and the third one I was like, that looked gnarly. Okay, whatever we're doing. How much of this is
of course he's gassed, so of course you don't want to do it that long.
Sure. So how much of this is the selling of I'm actually injured? How much of this is, hey, I'm injured, but I'm gonna protect myself? I don't know. I don't think Danielson wants to win these matches, but he's kind of getting booked that way and pushed that way because this is the retirement tour.
And yet, Mikey, he keeps winning. Is this the same thing they did to Sting, or is this kind of like Danielson accepting he's just going to get accolades to then lose on the big stage?
Well, even though we have the rest of July and we pretty much have all of August to figure out the direction we're going to, but All In is going to be a very important show in regards to the AEW World Championship because there are 2 paths that are laid ahead of us. But regardless of which path we go down to, the single commonality that they have between them, I don't think Swerve is walking out of Wembley with his title. He's either losing it to Danielson, which is the Danielson branching narrative, or because of what happens later and what gets set up for Blood and Guts, I think it ends up becoming a triple threat, and I see Hangman taking the title from Swerve as the biggest middle finger to Swerve for everything. But Swerve is not walking out of Wembley with that title, unfortunately.
That's rough, though.
I can see that timeline, though, Mikey, where Danielson gets pinned by Hangman. So Swerve, again, doesn't get pinned.
Yep.
So you then spread them down later in the year, like at All Out or wherever it needs to be for them one-on-one. I could definitely see that going there. Your Booker hat's very good at that point. But I want to jump from that because we were talking about him now. We had that amazing match. We had the ending there where Jeff Jarrett basically had to swoop in and basically cost Hangman the match. Swerve comes out afterwards and cuts a promo on Hangman, but mostly on the fact that he's going to step up and basically guarantee he's going to be the team captain for Blood and Guts. Do we see this as a good use of him going up against the Elite here? Do we think that Team AEW is going to even have a chance in Blood and Guts?
Go make it go. Go make it go.
Oh, yeah. Mikey, you put your finger up. It's all you.
Well, okay. So I'm just going to spoil it now. We can talk more about it depth than anything because Team Elite is the Bucks, Okada, Perry, and spoiler alert, even though it's not really a spoiler, Hangman is going to be in that Blood and Guts match for Team Elite. And it's going to be Mark Briscoe, Swerve as the captain, and whoever else they decide to put on Team AEW, which I'm pretty sure one of them is going to be Darby.
After what happened tonight, definitely.
Exactly. And everybody else, which makes me think that the Acclaim may or may not no longer be a part of that match, but who knows about it, but we'll see about that. This Swerve promo was weird for me because, it started off, talking about Danielson, and then it felt like this promo was way too long because it looked like Tony Khan gave Swerve the script. It's like, hey, I need you to mention these things that are coming up for you in the next couple of weeks and slash month. So go ahead and give us your whole entire tour schedule, which I was like, this was a weird presentation of it. Like, it started out as a regular promo, and then it turned into an AEW Dynamite infomercial.
I mean, I was going to ask the professor, did this look like an Instagram post by our comedian friends of where they're going to be in the next month, basically?
It did. It did sort of feel like, hey, here's this funny clip that I have. And if you're out in Pittsburgh next week, I'm going to be at Laffy. Like, okay, fine. It's hard. There were a few misfires on promos this evening. I'm not saying the MJF one was a misfire necessarily. I just didn't like that build up. Ospreys could have been stronger, sure. This one sort of fell flat to me a little bit too. Like, I wanted this. Swerve could have came in and said, Hangman's back. I don't care. You're coming from this title. I don't care. And kind of held it up. And it did turn into next week and in 3 weeks and in 2 months. And it was like, oh, okay, fine.
I am excited though with this tour schedule because next week it's him versus Okada, which I was like, how have they not fought one-on-one yet? And
well,
then, of course,
they're saving him for, which is Dynamite 250, because that's humongous next week.
Dynamite 250. It's him versus Okada. Then the following week is the Blood and Guts show, where that Blood and Guts match is happening. And then fast forward a couple weeks, he'll be fighting Danielson at Wembley. Though again, I'm pretty sure it's going to turn into a triple threat. But yeah, this was a weird promo, but it wasn't the worst promo because that came next.
Well, not next, because we had a video package for the women's Owen Hart final first, which gave us a rundown of Mariah May and Willow, which I was excited for anyways coming into that. These two packages, the top and then right here, were very slick. I thought that they had a good handle on how to sell that for us, got us involved. But then you're right. We jumped right from there to a promo with the Acclaimed, who basically seemed like they were trying to keep the beef with the Elite up on their end, and it wasn't working at it. And I have to ask this first. This is from a longtime listener, first-time caller named El Buntador, asking basically the Acclaimed music video they put out. Is this feud more Kendrick and Drake, or is this Will Smith, Chris Rock? Like, what do you feel?
Oh, my God.
This is much more of a Will Smith, Chris Rock, because I feel like Will Smith would watch Chris Rock pee on someone from a chair and just be totally okay with it. Like, oh, we're doing that. Cool. Max Caster's just sitting there like, I'm going to watch y'all do this. The way the camera's set up like that was like, are you? No, if that's true, then that you're just okay. I mean, I'm not going to yuck your yum, but that's the message you're sending. Such a strange, they tried really hard. And it's hard being the second one to do a propaganda post, right? It's hard trying to catch up and raise the bar to somebody else when they kind of nailed you the first time. It just fell flat to me. It was kind of silly. They're trying to sell as much as they can, and they did not land.
Mikey, your opinion? What kind of beef is this? Is it overcooked? Is it kind of just sitting there raw on the table? What's going on?
It is a criminal offense to both of those beefs to be compared to with this thing that's happening with the Acclaim and the Bucks. It is definitely not Kendrick and Drake because nobody is demolishing the other person and just like putting them 10 feet into the ground. And it's not on the level of a Chris Rock, Will Smith feud either. I would like to invoke the words of, fellow podcaster over at Fightful, Cresta Star. And I am going to quote her when she saw this video. She's like, this is trash. Nobody wants this. Boo. I love Cresta so much. She's so unhinged. I want to be her when I grow up.
We were talking about Max Caster and the raps and the music. Usually very strong. The last few months, way off. Like not.
This is not the.
Since
this is not the first.
New Jersey.
Yeah, This is not the first music video that the Acclaim have done in a feud. None of them have worked. Really? So the fact that they keep doing it, thinking it's going to go over, it's not. It's time to hang it up. Don't do this anymore. It is an insult to hip hop everywhere.
It's almost as if using a medium that was popular in the late 90s and like early 2000s probably doesn't work for you now. I would say move away from your MTV. It's not what you need. But we're going to move on to the Calgary Stampede Street Fight, which, again, we knew this was going to be all over the map. We knew that Chris Jericho was going to pull out some sort of weird thing in a bag that should have tacks, and this time it was horseshoes. because it's Calgary Stampede. And then we had a forklift involved. So we got our Judy Bagwell in a forklift moment with Samoa Joe. El Buntador asks, convince him that this was a better street fight than Willow Sky Blue, because it wasn't.
Because it wasn't. If I was Chris Jericho, I would stop pulling things out of bags, because every time you take something out of bags, you're the first one to get hit with it. It happened with the tacks. It happened with the dice. It happened with the horseshoes. It happened with something else. Yeah. Every time it's like, oh, I'm going to pour this out of the bag. Oh, I'm the first one to go through. And he took this on the tailbone. If you watch it, it did not go flush on his back. He took horseshoe to bum hard. Like, oh God, don't do that. I thought this was pretty reined in. This was sort of a don't get hurt. Please don't hurt me. I have to do TV shows for Samoa Joe. Like, I got to go back to my shooting schedule.
How do we write him off TV? Put him through a wall.
Yeah. And there's something, it got better. I mean, the second half of this, when we went into the crowd, it was like, all right, we got a street fight. Do something. I didn't hate hot coffee to the face. It was kind of funny out of nowhere. The silly theater thing is Big Bill just being in a room, just waiting. Like, oh, I thought you'd come this way. Bam! Like, come on. That could have been a little more, I don't know. They could have finessed that a little better, in my opinion. I don't mind throwing Samoa Joe through a wall, because that's probably the only way you're going to stop a Samoa Joe. But now we have this weird, look at me, I'm Chris Jericho, I'm crazy. Like, I'm Mr. Rogers, but I'm also a sociopath thing. Not everyone gets to play the crazy thing. I think that's what this is turning into. It's like, I'm going to be this character, but a little bit crazy. It's like, no, that's played out in tropey.
Everyone can't do crazy eyes. Hangman did it earlier on. Don't do it again.
And then he does the whole ending of this. Hi, bye, Samoa Joe. I was like, you don't.
Mikey, tell me why Willow and Sky Blue had a better match than this, please.
I don't even need to give, I don't need to argue that Willow and Sky is a better match, because by default it is. Like, it's Willow and Sky. Like, that's enough of an argument.
I didn't even see it, but I know that it's Willow and Sky. So in my head, I'm like, that must have been amazing.
It was amazing.
Bro, that street fight was amazing. And they added that last minute to the card, and it worked out very well. So this match has the, unfortunate distinguish of ending up on my worst matches of 2024 list.
What?
Excuse my French. We're 30 minutes in, so I can drop a curse word. I fucking hated this match. I was so angry and so mad. Like, putting aside my disdain for Chris Jericho as a wrestler and a person, because he's on a big power trip right now, especially, and I'm super afraid, even though the pay-per-view is not until September for CMLL, is fighting Místico. And I am so afraid that Místico is about to eat this pin in his home city of Mexico in La Catedral. Besides that, this was poorly paced. It was very one-sided. Joe was doing most of the work, as Joe does, because Joe is awesome. But from a storytelling perspective, you literally put Joe on this forklift, and it took you, I counted, it took you 1 minute and 15 seconds to get it through the wall. And Joe is just laying there. I know we have to suspend our disbelief, but you mean to tell me that you sat there for an hour just to let Chris Jericho do that to you?
Yeah, it is. I'm watching it now. It is kind of funny that he's just sitting there waiting while it's in reverse.
Yep.
This was garbage. I hated this match. And so I was like, you took out Hook, you took out Joe. I am so scared that he's going to take out Shibata. And I was like, no, you cannot do this to Shibata. No offense to Joe and Hook, because I love them both. This is Katsuyori mother tucking Shibata. Like, why?
Well, and I have to ask this also, because this does set up an interesting thing if we get it to the pay-per-view with this, because obviously Hook is going to take on Jericho again at the pay-per-view. Is this going to go from an FTW title match to a Taz on a forklift match? And do you want that?
No.
Can we do a forklift match? That would be kind of awesome.
I don't know. It's been done before, kind of. But
who had a forklift match?
Not a forklift match per se, but if you remember back to like that Super Bowl empty arena match between The Rock and Mankind.
Oh, sure.
That was
good knowledge.
Yeah. But still. Yeah.
I should thank you, Mikey. I should be keeping track of worst of the year. I haven't been, and I wonder if I'm sort of numb to how awful some of these matches are. Where I'm like, this is terrible.
It's just because Big Bill was in it that you just didn't think about that.
He's so good at being bad. It's great. He figured it out.
Right. My standpoint is that, I can usually forgive a lot of issues when it comes to wrestling matches because I am of the mindset that I cannot do what I watch on my screens every single week. So therefore, I give a lot of credit and respect to those boys and girls and non-binary folks who do this. However, if you have bad pacing, one-sided storytelling in ring, and you also insult my intelligence as a wrestling fan, that's going to knock you down into my worst of list. And this match insulted my intelligence with bad pacing, poor storytelling in the ring. Again, and this is not even counting that I hate Jericho's guts. Like,
I think Jericho also assumed because his connection to Calgary and to all that stuff, he could get away with a lot more, and he definitely didn't.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's one thing to suspend your belief, right? It's one thing to don't treat me like I'm stupid. I could see that.
And Humongous Billiam is always fun to see. But we move to our Global Glory 4-way match, which was seemingly thrown together on a whim, as we had Claudio taking on Kyle Fletcher versus Pac, and Ishii is going to stick around in AEW for a bit. How excited is everyone else for this?
He is on summer excursion, and he's going to be here in AEW for the rest of the summer.
That's great. We were just talking about this a little while ago, right? After Forbidden Door, like, oh, they're all going back. They're all going to stick around. Don't fall in love with them. Oh, you're here. Hey.
That's the most fun part. And Ishii, hopefully, if they don't use him to be just Orange Cassidy's backup whenever he needs it, this should be fun to have him here. But, this was a messy match. Overall, there were a lot of different times where I felt like we had a couple stop-starts. Having Kyle Fletcher lose by submission, not even by pinfall or anything else, but because he had to lose in the sharpshooter. Do you feel like this is jump-starting his leave or his being kicked out of the Callis family? Do you feel like he is going to blame this on Ospreay? What are they doing with Kyle Fletcher?
I don't know what they're doing with Kyle Fletcher, which makes me upset because I know this was thrown together somewhat quickly. Kyle Fletcher was great in this.
He always is.
He's always great, but a lot of other wrestlers would have panicked or still been a professional. But to do the work that he does like this, but to work with anybody, anytime, anywhere, like Kyle Fletcher kind of held this whole thing together. I don't know. I hope that they're doing something interesting. I don't know what. But you got to get him out of that family somehow. You got to figure out that Ospreay angle, and this could be the beginning of that. But I don't know. They're in a corner again.
Mikey, did he deserve to be put in the worst sharpshooter of all time?
Well, I think one thing we forgot to mention too is because this was like a brief side note, because even commentary failed to give this the emphasis that it does. The winner of this gets a future international championship match.
Right.
So, with that being said, to answer Professor's question, they're just in a holding pattern because in 2 weeks, it's probably going to be Kyle Fletcher versus Atlantis Jr. for a rematch for the ROH World Television Championship.
Right.
And see, they missed a great opportunity. Even if we had to wait on it, you could have had Fletcher win, and then, depending on what happens next week, have him go up against Will and be like, it's great storytelling. Like, they're buds. They're in the same stable, like with United Empire. Like, it's crazy. But yeah, that sharpshooter was absolutely trash. It was not great. I was like, oh no. I was like, Pac, you're better than this.
Well, and I'm glad that Pac then put him in the brutalizer and actually beat him that way, because that's
right.
The way he had to. But
and doing that Black Arrow, right? Black Arrow 540 thing. Why onto his butt was finish? Like that
So
was the
when he
big
did
thing.
the
It's like,
red arrow, when he used to do the red arrow, and when he was Neville, he would do it to the front and then go into a pin. But because he's a heel, he does it to their backside and then puts them in the brutalizer. So he does not pin them; he breaks them. Is what he does.
all right.
Sorry to take that away from you, Professor. That's the theory behind it. But Pac did win, and then he cut his promo because he's going to be taking on Will Ospreay for the International Championship, not the Intercontinental Championship, which is listed as
Or
here.
so we think.
We gotta
Or so
stop
we think,
doing
yeah.
promos after matches. They're always bad. I don't understand the first 4 words he said.
So I'm gonna
Kill
catch
me.
some. I'm gonna catch some heat for what I'm about to say. I love Pac to death. I really do. I'm kind of tired seeing him be relegated to this international championship scene like all the time. I hope he just stays like in one piece enough to get to Wembley so he can finally have his Wembley moment, because he was supposed to be there last year and then he got hurt like weeks before too.
Right.
I was just like, cool. Having him fight for the international championship, cool, fantastic.
Well,
But I feel that we could kind of push him somewhere else now, but that's just me.
I mean, he was the inaugural winner of this belt. So to have him take it back would be wonderful, and then have him fight Kyle Fletcher at All In. Then you have all that stuff there. While Will couldn't keep the belt, all of a sudden you got their thing there. Maybe that's where you're heading with it, to get him to Wembley's to have him have the championship.
Fatal 4-way.
Oh, jeez, always. We then move from the post-match promo to what we've alluded to all night here. Backstage, Okada and the Elite are speaking, and Aggro Page ends up coming in the back there and setting up that he's in now. Because he couldn't do it his own way, he's going to bite the bullet and join the Black Hats.
Oh, hangers, what are we doing?
I thought this was going to turn into a Renee versus Hangman spot.
Yo, Renee, like calling him out on his crap was amazing. And I love Renee so much. I'm like, I want more of our, backstage correspondents to, not to say they don't have a backbone, but be like push against the talent and, with the back and forth. Renee, you are amazing. I love you.
I love that. And what a cool opportunity that could have been to really write him into a corner with, okay, touched Moxley's wife. Now you have all the problems.
Mox is going to come back and beat him up.
He just copies Swerve and goes to Mox's house and puts a T-shirt on his daughter's. But
Mox is in blood and guts, confirmed. Just kidding.
Yes or no? Yes or no, though. This is yes or no question only. In the chat, if you want to as well, do you want to see Okada Hangman anytime soon, even at all in or All Out?
Yes. Yeah. No? People don't want to see that?
Mikey?
Mikey doesn't want to see that match?
I was trying to build suspense. Of course, yes. Duh. Who does it?
Yes, that'd be amazing.
So it's put the Elite in a shark tank or a shark cage and have them above. And yeah, okay, makes sense.
Can we do
Absolutely
that?
Not. Do it during Shark Week.
It is Shark Week right now, actually.
Is Shark Week still going? How long is Shark Week?
Shark
All
Week
month.
is at the end of this week. It's been going all week, John. It's the one thing I can watch without getting a virus on my computer.
It was going on 2 weeks ago.
Oh, those are the previews with Undertaker instead of John Cena.
How many Shark Weeks are there?
How many sharks are in the ocean, John? It doesn't matter because we got a women's promo on Dynamite, the one we get for the night. And look what it was. Mercedes Moné trying and doing better as a heel, but still failing on the mic. And Dr. Britt Baker saves the entire thing. Go ahead, Mikey.
So I want to bring this up. I'm gonna be all the way 100 with my co-host here. I do not hate Mercedes Moné. I really don't. I'm happy that none of us do. However, I say this with all the love and respect that I have for that woman. Having her go on these unscripted promos is 50-50. Sometimes some of the things she says was great. Like I loved how the crowd booed her after she quoted like the quote from Hart. I was just like
Hart's whole catchphrase.
That was really smart.
That was great.
Yeah.
However, I was like, ma'am, we just had a celebration in the ring last week, and this was something similar, except Britt didn't come out and stand there and go back and forth with you like she did last week. You could have spaced this out. I was just like, this is kind of like the Spark Notes version of what we got last week, with the exception that instead of Britt Baker going back and forth on the mic with Mercedes, Britt just destroys the bouncer and comes chasing after Mercedes. I was just like, just make it official, Tony. We're getting this match at Wembley. And I'm just like, what? Okay, so hear me out though. So it was announced that Mercedes is having an open challenge for the TBS championship next week on Dynamite.
Right.
I think we're getting a triple threat at Wembley again for TBS. I'm telling you, Wembley is going to be, let's throw all these people in because
Yeah,
it's
especially
going
the ones that missed out last year. Yeah.
exactly. And you know who missed out last year in Wembley, even though it was her hometown, and who I think is answering that open challenge if they're smart because she is cleared, is Jamie Hayter comes back.
It's going to be a 17-hour day. Britt Baker landing that super
Or
kick
morning.
on whoever that security guard was. She destroyed that man.
Britt has months of anger and frustration not being there to get through, and she's going to take it out on everybody.
Yeah.
The bouncer sold it perfectly. He's like,
See, Mikey, I disagree with you about a triple threat, though. Listen to this. This is my booking conspiracy theory.
wrong.
Jamie Hayter will be there in Britt's corner and make sure she takes it off Mercedes because she's there to go after Toni Storm, who defeats Mariah May at Wembley, so that Jamie can get her title back at All Out.
Or the other thing that possibly might happen, I don't think they'll do it, is because do you remember who took out Jamie a year ago?
It was all the
I don't like
wasn't it?
Yep. So who's the only person of that original formation that is left on this roster?
Oh my God, Saraya versus Jamie Hayter.
Yep. That's unfortunately where I think we might be headed.
But the All Out, I think, then that can still set up that she'll go after the actual title holder because I don't think they want her back for that mid-card belt. They want her back going after the title.
Well, here's the thing. Depending on who walks out of Wembley with that title, I think it's going to be a short reign like they did with Saraya because you have All Out 2 weeks later, and that's where you start setting up some other things. So who knows what happens? Crazier things have happened in AEW.
We'll talk about it, but I am a full-on hater. I have been a hater since day one. I love her to death. I'm so glad she'll hopefully get back soon, and that'll be a lot to talk about there. And maybe we can finally, it's not going to happen, get more than one women's segment on Dynamite because they deserves it. We cut from that, though, to backstage where Darby Allin decided to beat the crap out of Brandon Cutler because...
Or Brandon Cutler.
For a while.
Well, it seems that he's doing better now.
Even the announce table didn't know what to say. They're like, that just happened. Oh, no.
He's going to be in Blood and Guts. We know he's going to be in Blood and Guts.
He's going to be in Blood and Guts. Oh, of course. He's got beef with all of the Elite.
He's doing the bump off the top of the cage. We know he's doing it already, so that's what he's there for. We can skip that, though, because we already know what Darby Allin's about because we're at the final part here. I'm so glad this was the main event. I wish there had been other women's segments on the night.
Yep.
We had Mariah May taking on Willow Nightingale in the finals of the Owen Hart Cup for the women here. This went as planned. We knew where this was going because it had been set up for a while. But then, and we'll talk about the match in a second because the match was really well done. The ending sequence was picture perfect. But did we expect this violence and in the heel turn right now this far out from All In?
Mikey or me? Because I feel like one of us is going to go and it's going to go for a while.
Mikey's got that look in his eye like he wants to go in.
Professor, you go first.
I'll contain. I don't want to take up all of our time. I don't want this to be as long as Dynamite itself. This wasn't spoiled for me. I knew something had happened because I was a little bit behind. And of course, I checked the internet and then I saw a meme or two and went, wait, what? And then I watched it. I was not expecting the wee bit of the ultra violence that we got from this. I was expecting, betrayal in the thing. Oh, yeah, I knew that was coming. I wonder how they get there. Not this. This, in the current Toni Storm era, was pure horror movie masterpiece type stuff. Like, this is exactly what it needs to be. She might have bladed herself a little bit for the blood effect. My blood conspiracy, there was blood in the shoe and they pumped it at the top because when she hit her with it and dug it into the forehead, there was a different type of blood that all of a sudden happened. So it was full horror movie. The match, great. We should talk about the match. Luther taking a bump off this. Mariah May being ultra violent in a way we hadn't seen. So she's sandbagged us on this since when did she come here? In September, November? Like not even super long ago, right?
Been about a year.
Has it been a year?
This has been a 9-month storyline, so about a year.
Okay, so yeah. I love the bait and switch of we know what's coming, how's it going to happen? And then seeing it happen like this, it makes them both look strong. It makes her look real crazy. She didn't have to put on a face. She didn't have to look at the camera and go, ugh, like all the men do. She got stoic and stared, and it was terrifying. I love this Mariah May.
She came from the Becky Lynch style of get the blood all over my face, and I'm going to look badass. I don't need to be crazy.
Yes, and it works so much better. I love the sell of this. The announcers, when I rewatched it, the announce table kind of pushes it a little hard. They can let off a little bit. Trust your fans are smart. They're friends. Look at them. They're frolicking together. They actually this. I think they're going to, hey, stop. Just let it happen.
Let me ask to you, Mikey, as the youngest one in the group here, did you get the All About Eve reference in there either? Because that really was All About Eve. Their entire thing is what they've been doing.
Look, I know I'm one of the babies of the group, but give me a little bit more credit here, okay?
I didn't.
I know.
It felt like old school Hollywood stuff. Absolutely. When I read that today, I was like, oh my God, it absolutely is Eve. Holy crap.
Exactly.
Brilliant.
And
Brilliant.
I loved it because the whole entire time we've been going through this, and I love shout out to Drainmaker on Twitter for, pulling that thread, because I was just like, yep, this is exactly what I've been seeing over the last 9 months. And I was very familiar with this only because outside of wrestling, Grandma Willow also really liked Turner Movie Classics. We watch all the time. So
cool.
I'm very familiar with this. How do I put this? I enjoyed this turn. I thought the brutality and just Mariah being stoic this whole entire time was super fantastic. However, my only worry is Wembley is pretty much a month away at this point. What do we do with Mariah? I mean, you can have her go on a tear and just start destroying other women in the locker room. But I feel that we kind of pulled the trigger on this heel turn. Oh no, Tony Khan took him out. No.
Oh no! Finish your thought though.
Yes, I'm going to, and then I'll get your thought as we wait for him. Yeah. As we wait for JBL to come back. I'm afraid that we pulled the trigger too early on this, because now what does Mariah do and what does Tony do until then is my biggest part. Oh, hang on.
Hey, you're back. You're back.
Tony Khan is like, they're almost done. Click.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Informed on him to the
I'm not disagreeing with you.
I'm still excited though.
I do think pulling the trigger here works though, because now they have time to create whatever this alternative timeline Mariah May is, right? And if you're going to dip into the well of have her go chase Tony Storm around with wire hangers. If you get that TMC reference, start doing all the crazy
more wire hangers.
More wire hangers. Go make it weird for a while. And now you give Tony, we get to see a different Tony Storm, possibly sort of being afraid and not being able to fight back, because now you have a different type of crazy here.
Right. But the problem is
fun.
That because of how much this whole story is parallel to All About Eve, which I love, how much of that was Tony being the one giving that input for her and Mariah? So now that Mariah is split, I'm afraid, and maybe Tony will still help with Mariah behind the scenes, even though on screen they're going to be fighting and feuding. I'm afraid for Mariah, because you literally have her do this, and then I'm afraid that booking decisions aren't going to work out for her leading into All In. They cannot mess this up. This is the best woman story that AEW has produced since the inception of this company. And I honestly believe it's because I believe that Tony has had a big hand into how this is told and how this is presented.
I think Tony will still help, though. I think Tony and her.
No, that's
Tony
what
and-
I'm saying. I
yeah.
think Tony will. It's just a matter of will they listen to her and Mariah now that they're split and no longer a faction is what I'm worried about.
You're very right, Mikey, in the fact of that Tony has become the best, not even AEW, the best women's character that has been in wrestling for the last year. My hope, if we're going to keep going down this classic movie trope, is that now with this move, we move on from fictionalized All About Eve to the actual real life rivalry between Betty Davis and Joan Crawford. And
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Give me that.
real rivals who are then, if you're going to do it correctly, they're putting the same movie together later on, which means going into All In, they're in a tag match on the same side. Can they coexist? Works even better with this, and Mina Shirakawa's in the middle. Who knows what's going to happen with this?
Mina on a pole match.
But now that we know that Mariah May is a murderer,
Murderized.
brand new ball game, in my opinion. She's played by the rules. She's great in the ring, and now it's like, no, I will whip you with belts and throw you through tables and put shoes into your forehead. Like,
She destroyed Luther and Tony, which was great.
Luther took a great bump, by the way.
Too, because he took a nice shot to the balls too.
Yeah, that whipping sound Mariah May was getting out of that belt.
Well, and
Woof.
she was doing it backwards, so the gold was hitting them too.
Yeah.
So you're getting the metal, not just the belt. It's a studded belt. That being said, it ended the night on quite a note. It has become the big talk of the town.
Oh yeah.
With that in mind, what do we think about this? What are your empanada ratings for this entire thing? And is there anything that stood out more than the main event for you? Mikey, we'll go first with you, then Professor. What was your rating?
I give this a solid 6.5 out of 10 for me for Dynamite. I think this. I will say for the most part of it, I love the pacing of the show because we didn't outside all the in-ring matches were fantastic, minus the Jericho Joe fight, but that's beside the point. Everything was given time. Shout out to Willow and Mariah by having, heart-inspired gear. I loved Willow's especially.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was like, damn, that is a deep cut right there, Willow. I love that you do your homework, girl. I think that the Danielson Hangman match was great. They always have good matches, and surprisingly, this is only the 4th time they've gone up against each other. So it's been fantastic. But the reason it gives this a 6.5 is because outside of the matches, any promos that we got were not great. Or minus setting up, okay, Heyman's gonna be on Team Elite. Swerve giving us the infomercial, it's late at night and I'm Your Lady starts playing and trying to sell a CD infomercial like a 90s ad.
Sail away, sail away.
Yes, that part too. I enjoyed the wrestling. It's just that any in between was not necessarily great. So I give it a 6.5. I enjoyed this.
Nice, Professor.
What's hard, so because of the last match and what we got at the end, it absolutely should be way higher than I'm going to give it.
Which is fair.
This is low. This is a low rated one for me. This is like a 5.5, almost a 6, almost 6. If 5 is our average, a lot of the promos here were just sort of meh and missed the mark, which is a shame because we're in Calgary, which is wrestling mecca, and it's the night of the Owen Hart tournament, and emotions are high, and we should be bringing our A game, and everything was kind of not there. The Danielson Hangman match was great. The 4-way, I didn't hate. I had fun watching Kyle Fletcher and Ishii for sure, so those were okay. And then Willow and Mariah May, a great match, which we could have talked about at length. Everything else was just kind of mailed in and didn't have heart or soul to it, or just came off artificial, which is too bad. I want to be the positive Pete that is the rest of What Culture and folks that review this stuff, but it did not sell to me. I will ask the group. I've been tracking promos of the year. Does this segment after the Mariah May Willow match, that doesn't count as promo, right? So I can't include any of that.
No, what I will say though, depending on how Mariah answers for her actions, probably next week or whenever they allow her to talk, depending on how that promo goes, you can put that into the lead up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be real with you. I think this is by far the best like turn slash swerve slash OMG
yeah.
moment of the year for sure. But until I hear from Mariah, I already have my favorite promo of the year, and that's to Mariah's counterpart. I think Tony Storm has my favorite promo of the year, and that was her "I Make Love to My Demons" promo when before she fought Thunder Rosa for the title at Dynasty. So I was just like, that is my favorite promo of the year. I will say though, depending on what Mariah says and how she delivers it, there might be contention. But we have to hear from Mariah first.
I might have to make a new category for myself of like best WTF moment or something like that. Because my goodness, this was
it's the heel turn of the month, basically.
One of the marquee moments, probably of the year, in such a meh Dynamite, which is wild.
I disagree that it's wild. I'll give you my rating. My rating on this was a 6. For the same reasons we all talked about. The reason, Professor, I don't feel this is wild. If you go back and look at some of the better promos, but not promos, but like big heel turns, big event things. Roddy Piper hitting Jimmy Snuka with a coconut. The breakup of the Rockers, stuff like that. They're all on meh to terrible shows. And they stood apart because they were the one good thing there. Same here with, in terms of interactions with wrestlers, this fit the product of we're going to have an amazing, big, story-changing moment on a semi-good show because we have to focus on how to set that up correctly.
I also think the problem is with this, it could, not to say that the ending didn't have an impactful moment, because it obviously did, because it sets up, our road to All In and potentially what happens after that too. But I think the big issue here is because you are trying to build to All In. You have the Owen Hart been happening the last couple of weeks, but then you're also trying to cram enough story into warrant a blood and guts match as well, which has also been kind of sloppy building as well. So you're putting these two things side by side. Blood and guts is literally in 2 weeks, so you're cramming all that in. So unfortunately, the Owen Hart Cup kind of took a back seat last year, where now this year there's stakes, but the whole tournament for me felt really, really rushed. And that's unfortunate because last year there were no stakes except for the trophy and the belt, but that I believe was better because we had time to build this up. So I'm hoping for next year, I want to expand the bracket and not just have 4 people on each side, put 8 men and 8 women on each side of the bracket and have a 16-person, have a mini G1 climax, or best of Super Juniors.
It'll also depend when they're going back to Calgary.
Yeah.
Because that's when they want to build the final 2, is in Calgary. They want to have that happen. So watch the scheduling for next year. See when that pops up. We'll know more about if they have time to do it anyways. But Professor and Mikey, thank you for joining me tonight to go over Dynamite with all of our technical issues and all the other fun stuff. Thank you to the BC WrestlePod fam out there for joining us as well. We always love having you here in our little rooms, in our boxes, to talk about Dynamite, good and bad. And no, Mikey, we are not now going to turn on you and both beat you down and make you bleed with your own shoe. That's not how it's going to happen tonight, because we love you, we love each other, and we love you out there in BC WrestlePod land. But remember, if nothing else, stay iconic. And we'll see you in the next video.
Watch out for the shoe.